Blog Talk Radio.
Greetings, people of the world. We are anonymous, and this Greetings, people of the world. We are anonymous, and this is the Anti-Radio Network. Views and opinions expressed in our programming do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Anonymous or any sector. If it does and you do not like it, we do not care.
.com. Take my hand and I will lead you to the so-called end. Hold me tight and I'll forgive you for making me stay. Tell me lies and then I'll leave you, but lies are made. Better be strong.
Many of us were told in private conversations that if we voted against this bill on Monday, that the sky would fall, the market would drop 2,000 or 3,000 points the first day, another couple thousand the second day, and a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no.
We've got to stabilize the population. When I was born, there was
what's wrong with the population? I mean,
with too many people. That's why we have global warming. We have global warming because too many people are using too much stuff. But if there were less people, they'd be using less stuff.
In 1913, the money power of the country was taken away from the people by constitutional privilege. It belongs with the Congress, but it was given up in the Federal Reserve Act. The Federal Reserve is no more federal than Federal Express.
Hold me tight and I'll forgive you for making me stay. Tell me lies and then I'll leave you, but lies are made.
Hello, fellow humans. I am Rush Perez, and I would like to welcome you to the group of the Real World Order Movement. This is a jump of a scary adventure, so you definitely need to be prepared for things that may anger you, excite you, and plain out piss you off. But know this, all I am doing is offering the truth and nothing more. These are not my personal beliefs unless I specify so. I started this group because I know that there are people with brains who want to know the truth of what these ultra-rich bankers and tyrants have done with the U.S. and the rest of this world. This is a movement, not a fad or a trend. I myself am not a conspiracy theorist, but a realist. I'm not asleep. I'm very much alive and awake, but not, but not a know-it-all, but I know enough. I have encountered a lot of people in hell, been on one myself, to go into the mind, though, of the mind, though, who am I, or I'm only one person. This is a vehicle I have to give people a united voice. No matter what color, background, or economic status you are from, you are welcome here. If you want to take the blindfold off, it's up to you. I'm just helping. My only agenda is to wake people up. Put it in your face what's going on in the shadows to the best of my abilities. This is me doing our part. Ladies and gentlemen, thank all of you for tuning in. This is March 29th, 2016. Welcome to another edition, the first edition of 2016 of Against the Grain. I am your host, Rush Perez of the Real World Order, joined by my special guest, Lone Wolf of the RWO, and also my awesome co-host and partner, Switchblade of A&T. Switchblade, how are you doing?
Deaf, but otherwise fine.
For our listeners, S is a little under the weather, but he was nice enough to still join us for about an hour this evening. So thank you for that, brother.
No, it's all good.
For sure. Lone Wolf, Mr. Man of RWO, how are you this evening?
Pretty good, actually.
Excellent.
Just got done wolfing down my supper, and I'm ready to go, I think, as always.
All right.
Good.
Hey, always ready to rock it out. So without further ado, it has been a very interesting beginning of 2016, to say the least. We have several fires going on worldwide right now, which has sparked a lot of people who aren't even conspiracy theorists, quote unquote, or as they like to label us, tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists. Even the experts are starting to say something's about to bubble, ladies and gentlemen. You can even look at it from a financial aspect. Anytime that there is danger within the market, they call it a bubble. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not noticing the totalitarianism of the entire situations of things that are going on worldwide, we are in a global bubble. Pick your topic. Pick one. Industrial, infrastructure, trade, free trade. Doesn't matter. Point your arrows either way it goes. Ladies and gentlemen, you are witnessing, I'm comfortable enough to say, the last days of something, and I'll leave it at that. But I do encourage you guys to definitely open up your eyes. And if you are catching the show for the first time, I do appreciate you guys listening. Hold on to your hats. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Well, without further ado, let's talk about the subject that I at least have interest in, and I have made this very evident throughout the RWO, throughout all of the A&T pages, Operation Matrix 3, you name it. If I'm there, I've made it very clear. I am really bored with this 2016 presidential campaign circus. And to the point that I said, you know what, I'm done talking about it. I'm just going to make a meme about it. And I did. And I will post it actually on the Against the Grain website and post for this show in case you missed it in the multiple groups or pages that I put it on. Because let's just put it quite honestly, ladies and gentlemen, it's a fucking circuit. It is. One of the top stories in Kara News is top stories. North Texas Muslims aren't happy with Ted Cruz. All you need to know about blue bonnets. Okay, this is a article by Gus Contreras, Guntreras, and this article was on March 25th of 2016. This is not a very long article, so I will not talk your ears off, but instead get to the facts. The top local stories this morning from Kara News: Muslims in North Texas are speaking out against Ted Cruz. Following this week's terrorist attacks in Brussels, the Texas senator and Republican presidential hopeful called for law enforcement to step up their policing in Muslim neighborhoods. With spring weather in full effect in North Texas, the blue bonnets have started to come out. The wildflowers are a popular destination for some, and Karis Eric Asen, AASEN, gives you all the details on how to get the best glimpse. Okay, now I'm not going to go more into that story, but basically, the part and the reason why I even brought this story up is a part of that Ted Cruz, who was talking about that we need to unite America on certain kind of fronts, and how he is so much more of a better Republican candidate than Donald Trump because Donald Trump brings nothing but divide. Well, Donald Trump isn't asking for higher policing in Muslim neighborhoods. So that means as long as you have a certain number of Muslims in your neighborhood, you're subject to have your privacy infringed on because of your ethnicity, not all of the surveillance that we have. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, they're probably recording this damn phone call right now. Okay?
They are. The United Nations is following us. There's no question about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the gentleman who said that he is a top Republican candidate for presidency. If you want good change, don't follow Donald Trump. All he wants to do is divide the country. But yet, no, you're the snake underneath the fucking grass that has asked for law enforcement we already know that we have a broken judicial system, okay, and broken policing to the point that police and community have been separated for I don't even know how long, hence why we have certain operations that we do within our organization, okay?
Yes.
He's calling for more divide. What are you guys' thoughts on it?
Yeah, I kind of want to rewind a little bit first. Whenever Donald Trump made the, I guess, what's noted as the first outlandish statement where he wanted to ban all Muslims from being able to come into the country until the situation with Syria and the Islamic State is figured out and there's a better vetting process. And he actually said a whole lot more about it than the little clip that they like to play on mainstream media. Not that I am defending Donald Trump. I mean, I hate myself for having to defend Donald Trump because our media is such shit media. But with that being said, you know, Ted Cruz came out and slammed him for that. And in this very same speech that he made where he was condemning Donald Trump for wanting to ban Muslims from coming into the country, he turns around and says, I have proposed legislation that would put basically a restraint on Muslims coming into the country. He worded it by saying, you know, people coming from or people fleeing these war-torn areas that are full of Muslim fundamentalist extremists. And I want to bring up this distinction specifically because in his retort to, you know, his racial profiling of Muslims, as big of an oxymoron as that is Muslim isn't a religion or isn't a race, it's a religion. He turns around and he actually justified wanting to patrol areas of heightened Islamic extremism, but in the same fashion that you would monitor and go after gang territories. Now, the reason this is so peculiar is because it is as true as it is outlandish. On one hand, the increase of the police force, the entire principle of stop and frisk and everything else has a point, but inevitably it comes down to racial discrimination, profiling, suspension of liberties, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so Ted Cruz is pushing, instead of actually hyping up more on the border situation and on this refugee situation and trying to figure out a logical and reasonable way to stop the amount of refugees being brought into the country that the Homeland Security specialist actually tells you I don't have that number in front of me when speaking to Congress in late 2015.
Yep.
Instead of focusing on that, knowing full well that we intentionally stacked Islamic State of Iraq leadership with Al-Qaeda Iraq leadership into the Free Syrian Army, which are the same refugees that we're bringing into the country, rather than focusing on that, he wants to turn around and, as Mr. Constitutionalist, I believe in liberty and freedom for the people and restoring the Constitution. So what am I going to do? I'm going to push for a move to increase the police state. People need to remember, Islam is the fastest growing religion. Demographically, granted, largely thanks to the, again, immigration problems that we're facing, is now becoming a growing population that is a bit more than a minority, especially in several parts of the country. So Mr. Freedom, Liberty, and Constitution wants to turn around and increase the surveillance state, increase the police state, all in the name of fighting an idealism that, quite frankly, we helped Adolf Hitler institute in the 1940s through the Muslim Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
Does everybody see where this is going here?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Lone Wolf, what are your thoughts on this?
Reference, they had, wasn't it The Simpsons in 2000? I could be wrong, but I think it was 2000 that they had Trump winning the election then. They said that the country got a whole hell of a lot worse and it did better. But, yeah, if they called it back then, hello, you see what's going on, I'm there. I'm with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and the thing that kind of gets me about the whole situation, it comes to, once again, as I said, and I'm going to probably repeat a lot this year, is that it comes down to definitions of words. And this is one of those words that has been tossed into the gray area. This word is called probable cause. Okay? Probable cause, which is where Trump and Cruz, in my opinion, fucks up. Okay? Because I don't have an issue such as it was told that, okay, let's survey them as in we do gang-infested areas. Okay, fair enough. As being a former gang member, I get it. Okay, I understand that. All right? But defining the probable cause and rationale is that gray area that sends us into making this topic part of the show. See what I'm saying? It's crazy, people. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's so crazy that it makes sense. Think about that for a second. Speaking of people that are crazy and that make a little bit of sense to me, I have said this from the beginning. I said it before she took over for her predecessor, who was a snake himself. Loretta Lynch. I have a Blaze article here. Attorney General Lynch testifies Justice Department has, quote, discussed civil legal action against climate change deniers. This is an article that was written March 9th of 2016 by John J.O.N. Streets, as it is sound and pronounced normally spelled. Before I get into this article, I am going to make a very, 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 very solid stance on this, as I have certain people like George Soros and Rockefeller and Summers and, people who, you're a fucking snake, okay? It doesn't matter. I made this comment earlier in the week. If you put lipstick on a pig, what is it? Still a pig. Okay, prime example. Attorney General Loretta Lynch testified Wednesday that the Justice Department has, quote, discussed taking civil action against the fossil fuel industry for, quote, denying the, quote, threat of carbon emissions when it comes to climate change. I will address that at the end of the article. During Lynch's testimony at a state judiciary committee hearing, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, who is a Democrat for Rhode Island, said that he believes there are similarities between the tobacco industry denying scientific studies showing the dangers of using tobacco and companies within the fossil fuel industry denying studies allegedly showing the threat of carbon emissions. He went on to point out that under President Bill Clinton, the Justice Department brought and won a civil case against the tobacco industry, while the Obama industry has, quote, done nothing so far with regard to the fossil fuel industry. White House concluded his comments by posing a question to the country's top law enforcement officer. Quote, my question to you is, other than civil forfeitures and matters attendant to criminal cases, to a criminal case, are there other circumstances in which a civil matter under the authority of the Department of Justice has been referred to the FBI, he said. Quote, this matter has been discussed. We have received information about it and have referred it to the FBI to consider whether or not it meets the criteria for which we could take action on. Lynch answered, I'm not aware of a civil referral at this time. I am not going to get into it right now. I am going to actually leave this up to my guest. So first, guest, go ahead, Lone Wolf, and tell me what you thought of that Blaze article.
Wow, where to start? But I think where I would say anything, it's just something like we've spoke about in the past with others, that the article pretty much says what I was going to say. Every time I start thinking of something, you were reading along and it was answering that question. So I'm kind of at a loss right now to respond, other than she's another Hillary in my book, I think.
I have that effect on people. S, what is your thoughts on that article?
Well, it's pretty general for Lynch, in all honesty. This is not the first nor the last time that she's, using a position of power to severely overstep authority to input her own biases to it. I tend to drown out whenever people start talking about global warming because, as I've ranted on repeatedly on Beyond the Veil, nobody's willing to tell the truth about it. And now you're talking about prosecution and you're manipulating everything else and you're comparing this industry to that industry. Well, get back to me whenever you want to talk about fucking science, whenever you want to sit down and distinguish the difference between carbon and carbon dioxide and how that process manifests itself, the effects that it has on the atmosphere, the equation to methane versus carbon, the emissions resulted from the mass production of ethanol through corn versus hemp, biodiesel versus gasoline, the pure effects that we've had since the 1950s on cloud seeding experiments that expanded and manifested itself in an effort to, quote, fight global warming through stratospheric aerosol sprays. I mean, yeah.
It almost gets to a point that you have to sit there and be like, really? Okay, that's where you want to go with it? All right, here's my kick 21 about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have talked about this on Against the Grain before, and I am going to repeat it probably for, the 13,000th time. When you are covering up the carbon footprint, what do you breathe out? What do you breathe in? So when you're talking about that you want to cover up the carbon footprint, mind you that Obama in his presidency has already been proven to be one of the highest carbon users, as he's trying to get the rest of the world to fall for this bullshit. But anyway,
if you breathe carbon, you will die.
Right.
Carbon dioxide is not carbon.
Right. And 5 plus 5 equals 4. It's amazing that it's even transpiring to that. This is another example of I'm not even going to say elites. I'm going to say the substitute team okay, the second stringers, okay, this is the shit that they do. They prey on our local laws that they know that our laws and our Justice Department needs to be reformed, and they play those strings of that broken system to make the average person bend and beg to plead for what they want, because they already are inciting that you are uninformed. Hence why we say knowledge is power. That wasn't just a Schoolhouse Rock thing. That's the one fucking thing they got right. Okay? Knowledge is power. They gain power off of your ignorance. Point blank, period. Loretta Lynch is a snake. I am willing to bet $1,000 that the seat, just like the presidential seat, has a puppet dance. Okay? Because it's a puppet post. The Attorney General is the local federal puppeteer. Okay?
Honestly,
if that makes
the Attorney General shouldn't have any power extended beyond the District of Columbia.
I agree with
absolutely,
that.
I absolutely agree. But we got to thank her predecessor for that, because otherwise Fast and Furious would have never even been operated. Well, at least not in the fashion that it was. Which, ladies and gentlemen, did you see how quick that fell out of the news? Did you see, while everybody's talking about Hillary Clinton's fucking emails, did you see the blatant treason that Eric Holder did? And got caught red-handed and just said, hey, I'm going to retire. Bye. See you guys later. Peace out. Did anybody else catch that?
Well, you know, we really have to brainwash people into thinking about guns in a completely different way. In other words, we can sell them to the cartels and take them away from the people the cartels are shooting.
I just think it was the funniest thing in the world once I found out the specifics of what Operation Fast and Furious was even about. Okay? That's basically like putting $100 bill on the table and having the numbers written down and a little chip on it, and then wherever the dollar lands, you're going to go get them. But in actuality, they weren't doing that. They were selling them. That's admitted fact, people. That's a simple Bing search. Bing it. There's tons of articles, tons of sourceful things. Pardon?
Ask El Chapo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And notice how quick fell out of the news as well. Ladies and gentlemen, do you not see the conditioning that's going on? I'm not going to beg you anymore. Either you get it or you don't. I'll see you at the top, baby. We can't keep doing it.
It doesn't matter what you say. At the end of the day, Donald Trump smells like horse shit, and Bernie's shit looks like a rainbow. So that's all anybody cares about.
And I would have to agree with you on that, because we all know that life is full of lollipops and fucking rainbows, as they have basically, anyways. All right, so let's go on to another knob job that I love to talk about. So we're going to actually go into a segment I like to leave for the second hour, but I've got so many of them because I haven't been on air in so long. We're going to have a couple of them. First off to bat this evening is the Reverend Al Sharpton. Oh, my buddy, old pal. I love this guy. As a matter of fact, Al Sharpton, I'm pretty sure you're listening right there with the rest of the NSA. If you ever feel the inkling to actually come on and speak to an actual minority, feel free to call into the show. Anyway, the Washington Examiner has an article. Al Sharpton wants Biden, Kerry, Warren, Elizabeth Warren, not Warren Buff, ladies and gentlemen, just to clarify that, to run if Clinton is indicted. This is an article by Paul Bedard, Bedard, and if you would like to tweet Mr. Bedard, you can tweet him at Secrets Bedard for Twitter. I'm not going to really get into this article because, well, first off, as I was discussing with S in the green room, there is a video that actually goes with this but his voice annoys me, and I figured that I would not do that to my listeners on the first show of 2016, and more or less to myself. So I picked out a couple of hard points about this. Long story short, Al Sharpton decided that he wanted to get on a Christian show, and he was interviewed, and the question came up of Hillary becoming indicted, which, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you guys have followed that or not, but there has been, I hate to say this word because it's an industry word, but stunning revelations within that case. So the State Department is definitely looking to make some type of indictment, whether it be Hillary herself or her lesbian lover. Either way, something is about to come down the pipeline on that. But Mr. Al Sharpton decided that he said that he would name these people to give a little more flair into the president's seat or puppet post. Joe Biden, John Kerry, Senator Elizabeth Warren, former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick, and South Carolina Representative Jim Clyburn. Okay, he says that Sanders can't get enough of the black and Latino votes in order to become president. Because as we all know, America is a melting pot, quote unquote. And without the blacks and Latinos, they feel like, or at least that's what the establishment has you believe, or is pumping out, that you cannot win the presidency, which, ladies and gentlemen, as I have said before, it is always up to the Electoral College, which for you dumb people out there is not a physical fucking building. Anyway. John Kerry would be electrifying, according to Al Sharpton, if he was elected, which I guess that means with more of the military-industrial complex of bombs and, more flares all over the place, because that's what Kerry brings, okay?
Rolling bones.
Yeah, I honestly thought this was an Onion article. At first, and then I thought it was the Washington Examiner, and I was just like, oh shit, this is real. Okay, that he actually, right, you know what I'm saying, that he actually blurted this shit out, and the point that he's opening up his mouth, period. Number one, Al Sharpton, who cares what you have to say, okay? I mean, honestly, who cares? Who cares? You're like Kasich, okay? You're like John Kasich, who cares? You're like the one kid in dodgeball that never gets picked. Okay, nobody cares what you have to say. Okay, point blank, period. Because you are not there when it actually matters to community. You're only there when it matters that the cameras are rolling. You and Reverend Jesse Jackson. It's just funny how both of you are reverends on top of it. But that's for another show. S, what is your thoughts on that article?
Well, first, just to elaborate on that last point, when Black Lives Matters tells you to get the fuck out of their city, you don't represent black people, Mr. Sharpton. when they listen to Soros more than they listen to you, you've lost all credibility. Oh, God. Okay, so I think I got a little mixed up at the beginning. This was an endorsement for Kerry or Biden?
No, this was Al Sharpton saying that if Clinton is to become indicted and is no longer in the presidential race, these are the people that he would like to take her place as far as running for president.
My God.
Yeah, I'll let that settle.
It's not his. Who cares what he thinks? He gets a procedural vote like everybody else does, and the DNC has made it extraordinarily clear that they don't care what your procedural vote is. Okay. And yes, I'm not misspeaking. I'm saying procedural for a purpose. They have to have this vote. They don't give a shit what the actual outcome is. It's a procedure for them, just like whenever they bring a bill to discussion. It's a procedure that doesn't actually have any meaning behind it. And that's what your primaries boil down to. As the chairlady of the DNC flat out said, superdelegates are there to protect the party leadership from grassroots opposition. That's why Bill Clinton is a superdelegate for the Democratic Party, and his wife is running for president, never mind the conflict of interest. So I'm looking at these people, I'm like, okay. So basically the left is looking primarily at John Kerry and Joe Biden from the various reports that I've seen. And I'm sitting here going, okay, well, you got the guy who ran against George W. Bush during his second reselection. And it was really like Mitt Romney running against Barack Obama. At every single debate, especially that third debate, Mitt Romney was like, I completely disagree, but I'm going to say everything that he did, but I'm white. I mean, it's not even funny how parallel. And Joe, I wouldn't trust Joe to babysit a pet goldfish. I am sorry. He has lost it. It's not even fucking funny. Who the hell points and gives thumbs up like Jesus in Dogma at fucking campaign rallies? I have no idea. John Kerry for president would be a 5th edition of the Bush legacy, with Obama being third and fourth. I would honestly rather have Hillary Clinton in there than John Kerry, simply because everybody knows what a bitch that she is.
I agree. These Nuts 2016. All right. Lone Wolf, what is your thoughts?
I agree with Switchblade. I don't even think we ought to be giving Al Sharpton even the airtime personally, because how does, let me just say this for the viewers and listeners, whatever, how can Willie Nelson get everything locked up for his taxes and Al Sharpton owe how many millions, and I believe it was 600,000 in New York, that he can still be walking the streets, but yet they think he's some kind of icon. And like you said, Baltimore's a prime example. He went there to stir up all kinds of BS. Okay, now he's wanting to say, oh, I have the say in who's going to be the next, unquote, designated hitter in the Democratic presidential campaign. I don't think so. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to switch on this one. I wouldn't give him the toilet paper to go to the restroom. That's the way I feel about it. And John Kerry, no, look, he got caught lying about being in that quick boat in Vietnam. He later admitted to that. Oh, I was part of an operation, but I wasn't on the boat. So, hello, people need to wake up. That's the way I feel about it. And Al Sharpton needs his reverendship pulled, because he's as crooked as a dog's hind leg. That's all I got to say, or I'll just go off.
May I say one more?
Yeah, go ahead.
There was another aspect in there about Bernie Sanders that I really, again, I hate defending Bernie Sanders. I have to defend Bernie as much as I defend Trump, and I don't like either one of them. But there was the portion in there where you said that Bernie Sanders couldn't get the Black Latino vote. And this can't be ignored. And I'm sitting here, and I've actually been baffled, as most of you know, as to how the hell Hillary Clinton is carrying the Black and Latino vote, and it's because of all the work that she's done. She supported a fucking segregationist. Everything Hillary Clinton has done has been for her. Bernie Sanders, however, actually marched on the streets with Dr. King while she was working for some Republican governor, I forget his name, that supported segregation before she flipped over to Democrat and supposedly became this, undercover agent, because she was actually working inside of a whole bunch of pro-segregation groups, fighting the inside battle for civil rights, which I don't buy any more than fucking government cheese. But at any rate, Bernie Sanders was actually out there in the streets with Dr. King, got arrested fighting in the civil rights movement, has continuously supported everything, including audaciously, quote-unquote, reverse racist programs in order to support minority communities. So if you are fucking dumb enough to vote one of the establishment parties, why Hillary Clinton? It baffles my mind, and I think people really need to think about that.
Vice President Joe hip shooter Biden, okay? You couldn't cock it up as president, so I sure as hell you gracefully bowed out. So you know what? I'm going to be nice to you and just keep it moving. Secretary of State John Kerry, I don't fucking think so. We might as well put Bush Sr. back in there. It's another military-industrial complex, presidential seat again, and those are the only people that are going to benefit, while our veterans are no more than a number, especially once they come home. Senator Elizabeth Warren sounds really good. Unfortunately, you also thought that the Texas corridor was a really good idea. The former Massachusetts governor, Deval Patrick, unfortunately, I don't know enough about you to comment, but I'm pretty sure you're in that category too. And Jim Clyburn, I don't know enough about you. My whole thing about this whole situation is that who the fuck cares what you have to say? Who cares? Who cares? Who gives a shit? You haven't been relevant since the 70s, just like Spike Lee, so nobody gives a shit, okay? Honestly, if you really want to show people that you give a damn about the community, how about be in it? And that's about all for that, because I'm not going to spend any more time on him.
Before you move on, can I throw you a quick curveball to see what your thoughts are?
Sure.
It was released in an article today that I was reading. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't give you the nice little headline source and all that stuff. But basically, one of the top campaign managers for the Bernie Sanders campaign says that the hope for the campaign is not lost, because basically the expected scenario is that Bernie Sanders will garner enough delegates to prevent Hillary Clinton from taking the majority, which means, for those of you who have followed the delegate situation with the Republicans and how they plan on basically robbing the election at the convention simply by preventing Donald Trump from gaining enough delegates, the Sanders campaign is now playing into that same strategy, which means we are looking at a very likely scenario of the RNC and the DNC going to convention over their primary candidacy and selecting who is going to be their grandstanding nominee at a contested convention on both parties. What are your thoughts?
Go ahead, Lone Wolf.
All right, I'll go. I honestly can see that happening. Why? And please, people, don't go crazy on me here, but there's been much talk the last 6 months. Now, hear me out. If this does happen, then they could say that there could be turmoil for the office of president. And what is that going to do? That's going to allow the shithead that's in office stay in office prolonged, because it's not going to be settled. And that will give him the hence, quote, third term. And what will that do? That could mean a bunch of different things. But if they do that, if it's, just imagine how just the simple recount was. That's for 2. Now you're putting 4 people in the mix. And then you're bringing D.C. into the mix. And it's what if we ask us, so the only solution that they would have is letting Barack Obama stay in there longer. Am I right or am I wrong?
Well, I mean, I guess you can kind of, I understand where you're coming from as far as it coming to some form of default, but where would that default lined under a legislative amendment, reply, anything? You know, that would be my only question to either point of the article. It really is, and everything is becoming that double-edged sword, and I think that's exactly why, one of the reasons why S brought it up. Could that happen? I think that could happen. I think that the pot is brewing for that recipe. People say, well, how can that happen? Well, I don't know, the same way that we have God knows how many FEMA camps right in your fucking backyard. Okay, there's ways around. There's what they call loopholes. Okay, and if they can prey upon that loophole, which if you haven't noticed, our Department of Justice has become that loophole for them. Okay, it's really not that far-fetched.
No, it's not.
Well, let me just expand a little bit here. One, I think it's going to happen. I think that both parties are going to wind up going into their conventions with contested results, and therefore they're going to select a nominee that the people never voted on. Now, let's just break down a little bit of math here, okay? In order for the Republican Party to have a candidate get automatic nomination due to the votes, they have to meet a total of 1,237 delegates. Okay, the entire amount of delegates that they are fighting for, the entire amount that's available, including the superdelegates, is 2,472. Now, if you split that number in half, it's 1236.5, which means it comes down to a difference of one delegate, super or otherwise. Now, with that being said, we're looking at the two front runners. Donald Trump, who has 736 delegates and needs 52.2% of the remaining delegates in order to win the candidacy by default. And you have Ted Cruz, who is sitting at 463 delegates, and he needs 80.7% of the remaining delegates in order to win. However, you also have Rubio and Kasich in the race. Rubio sitting at 171, Kasich sitting at 143. Even though Rubio has suspended his campaign, he has not officially canceled. Therefore, he holds on to his delegates. So 171 plus 143, you're looking at a good 300 and change delegates that have been removed from the picture. So you're not looking at a difference of one delegate. You're looking at a difference of 301, roughly, delegates in order to have a contested convention. Now, on the Democrat side, you've got Hillary sitting with 1,712 delegates and Bernie sitting at 1,004 delegates. However, O'Malley, the last remaining candidate who suspended his race as well, is sitting with 0 delegates. Therefore, it comes down to a matter of 1, which means mathematically and numerically there is 0 possible chance of a contested convention for the Democratic Party. However, I predict it will happen.
Well, I mean, I'll sum all of that up like this for the listeners. Wouldn't it be some shit if it comes down to a fucking coin flip? Huh? Wouldn't that be some shit? Oh, and ladies and gentlemen, don't think that that's far. Exactly. And don't think that it's far-fetched, because some of the major cities that had their caucuses, guess what? They were determined over a fucking coin flip. So it's not far-fetched at all. And it could come down to that very thing, which definitely doesn't give much hope to people, changing people's minds about that your vote matters. See, there's kind of a double arrow being shot to the heart. All the fun part about Operations Matrix 3, looking at every angle, even your own. With that being said, I do have a couple articles that I want to get into before I break here, and we're about 12 minutes to it, but I think this is it about for the regional news. I'm sure I'll find something else, but this deserves attention. This is a CW39.com article. It's Newsface. Reefer Madness Cannabis Oil Dispensary coming to North Texas. Woohoo! Congratulations, you guys. What's that? This was an article brought out March 24, 2016 by Web Staff, just as it is said. This is a really short article, so I'm going to blow through it here pretty quick. Gunter, Texas. In 1936, the movie Reefer Madness warned parents about the slippery slope of destruction smoking marijuana would cause in the lives of both them and their children. Who would have guessed the bones and boards of a building from the Reefer Madness era might help change the message of marijuana entirely in Texas? Quote, "We wanted a traditional building," end quote, said Aquaflow, CEO Patrick Morin. Quote, I had thought about a cotton mill or cotton gin. Yeah, it was love at first sight. We were done. End quote. Since the passing of the Compassionate Use Act, Morin and Aquaflow have been committed to being one of the first to sell legal cannabis oil in the Lone Star State. Where is he planning to open up shop? How about Gunter, Texas, where the latest population count stood at around 1,500 people? So, that's a little something for you guys down there in Texas. They're going to be the very first companies to have a oil-based cannabis oil finery in your place. So, small leap, but a leap nevertheless. S, since you are obviously over there, what are your thoughts on that?
Mixed. On the one hand, being the way that Texas is, it is a step. I'm highly, 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 highly disappointed in this step. This was actually a Democratic legislation that went through that allowed the use of cannabis oil to be used specifically for seizure treatments in epilepsy patients. Okay, so before anybody gets all excited, we're not opening any dispensaries. It's not going to be freaking medical marijuana or any of that shit, okay? This is a specific type of cannabis oil that is actually devoid of tetrahydrocannabinol. For those of you who don't know, tetrahydrocannabinol is the substance within marijuana that gives you the euphoria feeling, and it is also the most potent source for fighting cancer, eliminating breast cancer, treating arthritis, depression, works wonders on depression, schizophrenia. The list goes on and on and on, but it's completely devoid of that substance. And instead, it produces an alternate cannabinoid, typically found in sativas rather than indicas, that is a calming effect on the neurons that the body doesn't actually respond to in any sort of noticeable way. So basically, unless you are a very, very severe patient, you're not even going to be relieved of your symptoms. You're going to see a minor reduction, because the major component of the cannabis plant that is needed in order to treat epilepsy has been completely removed from this oil. And the reason that this pisses me off so much is that we actually had Republican legislation introduced out of Longview, Texas, out in East Texas, that literally wanted to regulate cannabis like jalapenos. That is what the senator, I don't have his name off the top of my head, that is what the senator actually proposed, and the exact analogy that he used. We should regulate it like jalapenos or any other herb or spice that comes through our market. That's better than Colorado. Okay? But we take the most mundane, asinine, democratic legislation that was made dumbed down and asinine intentionally to gain Republican support, and we denounce the Republican bill that was the most common sense law that there was. And mind you, we had 4 laws on the books in the last legislative session. And here in Texas, we only get a legislative session every 2 years. So it's going to be 2017 before we can even attempt to change this again. But at the same time, with the introduction of the bills from the Republican counterparts, which were all far more favorable in ending prohibition, which, by the way, is illegal. Prohibition requires a constitutional amendment, and the federal government has no right to institute criminal law, and the states adopted the federal law and therefore have the right to refute it under the 10th Amendment, which is what we're seeing happening in Colorado in Washington and California and the other 37 states that have legalized medicinal marijuana. This is a big step in the right direction, but it's not big enough. It's not what we need. Okay? I would much rather give a kid who's struggling with attention disorders, and I don't mean a kid like, 8, 9 years old, but I mean like high school. I would much rather give them a controlled amount, medicinal purposed marijuana than I would ADD medicine, especially when the leading ADD medicines don't even hide the fact it says methamphetamine on the fucking bottle. Okay? That's where I stand.
No.
I'm grateful, but I'm pissed.
Oh, and rightfully so. This is another reason why I always tell people to dig a little more and not look at it just on the surface, which is why I went to you first, because I knew you had some more on this, even more than I even looked up on it. Lone Wolf, what is your thoughts on it?
I'm going to ask this directly to Switchblade, because we're sort of here where I live. It's been through the House, and the governor here said if it hits his desk, he's signing it that day or that time whenever it hits. But anyway, back to you, Switchblade. Wasn't there also another senator, correct me if I'm wrong, from Texas said, I want to quote him, but I don't want to, but it's somewhere along the line as he quote him to say, how friggin' hard can it be? Regulate it also just like you do alcohol, because you have whiskey, you have brandy, you have bourbon, you have wine, and you have beer. How hard is it? I'm pretty sure that was one of the ones that was for this, like you said, with the jalapenos or anything coming in, that he used the alcohol reference. Can you shed some light on that? Did you hear of who that was?
I don't have his name in front of me. There have been several that have said that. And to be fair, even John McCain has come out and said, obviously the people want it. We're fighting a useless battle. Just legalize it already. Okay?
Right.
There is...
Well, Let me answer that really quick as far as John McCain, because looking at something else that I'm going to address on a different show, I'm not going to get into it tonight, but in dealing with Texas, this is something that I found kind of disturbing. I completely understand why McCain would be like, yeah, go ahead and legalize it. Why? Because the Mexican cartels make money off of the drugs. What does McCain support? He supports the Texas corridor and also Canamex, which is the California route from Mexico up to Canada. It's all part of the NAU. Okay, so I'm not surprised, because then turn around, that just makes it even sweeter for him to be able to run the drugs and the gang members and everything else throughout the corridors throughout the entire northern hemisphere. Okay, going on. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Basically the major point here is the populist vote for legalizing marijuana is over 60% nationwide. Okay. I'm willing to bet that it's substantially higher than that, given the fact of how polls are conducted and how when people feel like they're being put into a public record, they change what they will say in fear of repercussions versus what they would say in private. So you probably have a lot of people out there who are not only supporters of cannabis, but users of cannabis, who are supporting the I want it to be illegal, either for the fact that they don't want anybody knocking on their door, or they're currently making a profit off of it. Okay, so with that said, there is a general consensus of about 80% in this country of where the anti-marijuana coalition is coming from, and it's private prisons. They have literally issued statements that said we cannot end marijuana prohibition because it will hurt our occupancy capacities. and we have occupancy contracts with governments, and we fear that they cannot supply their end without the war on drugs, okay? On the flip side, you have the very same states that are being referred to by these private prisons going, no. Do you know how many millions of dollars we're going to have to pay if we stop locking these people up for petty crime when it's not even a fucking crime?
Right. I know exactly. 100%.
All seed-bearing plants I give to you.
Wow.
You don't even have a biblical reason to stand against it. There's none.
No.
Not one.
Well, I'll say. Go ahead.
In the words of Jesse Ventura, people keep an open mind, but in the words of Jesse Ventura, he said, by legalizing marijuana and everything spin-off from it, your oil, your road, club, whatever, yes, we do that, but you're probably talking $20 billion literally within a year to add to our budget in profit. In a year, $20 billion. That's a hell of a lot of money just off one consumer product.
Colorado alone pulled in billions of excess. Not what they were expecting. Billions of excess tax revenue. One state.
Yep, and they ended up giving extra on people's refunds. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
you guys can be them.
That's what people in Pennsylvania are saying. How does Governor Wolf get this $6 billion a year budget that he wants to do over his time as governor? He's looking at the cannabis aspect of it because he's looking at like Colorado, Oregon, and all these other places. Hell, even D.C. Look how much they've taken in, but they're all allowed to possess it on the street or they'll get arrested. Bullshit. They're all sitting back smiling. They know what's going on.
Well, think about it from a common sense perspective. Sorry, Rush, just one last point. From a common sense perspective, all the tax information is public. Go look at the tax information for Colorado, okay? The state taxes are outrageous whenever it comes to cannabis. A $20 purchase is going to run you about $5 extra just in taxes.
Yep.
And everybody is more than happy to pay it.
Yep. I'd pay it. I tell you this. Well, let me. I know we're at the halfway point here, but we're going to go a little bit over as long as S can still join us here because I want to finish up this topic with this article. Now, you both have brought up very, very good points, and I've always been brought up very good points about marijuana usage. I am a user myself. I am a Rasta. So I actually understand it from a scientific and also from a usage point of view. I suffered and still do from time to time very severe migraines to the point that I have to turn out the lights, everything, and I can hear a mouse take a bite out of cheek. Like, that's how bad it can get. And I have not had those for quite some time, which is very good. So how about this? Why don't we just say it's the time to decriminalize drugs? Well, if you don't think so, a global panel says yes. I have an article from the Washington Post. It's an article by Rick Noack, Noack. You can follow him on Twitter at Rick_N. This is an article that was written March 28th. The war on drugs has never been limited to one particular country. Governments all over the world have attempted to destroy drug dealing networks and increase penalties for drug-related offenses. But have those countries followed the wrong lead? According to an international committee under the helm of Johns Hopkins University and medical journal, The Lancet, the answer is yes. Quote, the global war on drugs has harmed public health, human rights, and development, said Commissioner Chris Bayer, Beyere, an EPIDEMIOLOGY professor at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Quote, it's time for us to rethink our approach to global drug policies and put scientific evidence and public health at the heart of drug policy decisions, end quote. Bayer is among the authors of a new report published last week that comes ahead of a UN summit on the issue in April. So just really quick, ladies and gentlemen, that they're giving you the hint right there. There is a UN summit that is coming up that they are going to be addressing marijuana on one or multiple levels. The rest of the article reads, the Commission said it reached its conclusion based on publicly accessible data and analysis on drug-related violence and incarceration, for instance. Quote, the goal of prohibiting all use, possession, production, and trafficking of illicit drugs is the basis of many of our national drug laws. But these policies are based on ideas about drug use and drug dependence that are not scientifically grounded, Breyer said. In the report, the International Commission urged governments to decriminalize minor and nonviolent drug use, possession, and petty sale. Enactment of policies that reduce violence and discrimination in drug policing, end quote, among other things. Eventually, such measures could lead to decreasing in drug-related violence worldwide, the authors suggest. They refer to data from Central America and Mexico, where homicides increased following military and police action taken against drug trafficking. Quote, this violence has led to a surge of Central American refugees crossing the United States southern border, end quote, the report states. Other researchers and prominent voices have also called for more lenient drug laws. On March 24, several former heads of state and business leaders published essays that reached a similar conclusion. The authors include the former presidents of Mexico, Brazil, and Nigeria. Now, just really quick, okay? Mexico, we already know that they're part of the NAU. Brazil, all right? We already know they're a part of BRICS. Nigeria, believe it or not, they actually have something to do along with BRICS as well. We'll get to that in other shows. I just want to put that in there. Most of the essays focus on the vast costs of the war on drugs and its few positive impacts, according to its authors. In one of the essays, Ernesto Zedillo, Zedillo, a former president of Mexico, argues that decriminalization consumption without taking away from organized crime the provision of the supply of drugs would be counterproductive. However, despite the prominent support for an end of the war on drugs, it is considered unlikely that the upcoming UN summit will change much about current policies. Harsh approaches toward drug dealing and consumption may already be too deeply enacted in many societies. What are your thoughts on this, starting with Lone Wolf?
I think they're on the right track, per se, because, I don't want to say because, if it's bringing, like the article says, more attention, and from what I could pick apart real quick there, that it's basically, in lay terms, saying, people, it's time to wake up, because it's a moot point to keep pissing in the wind about legalized or not legalized. And now the firefights, yeah, I can see that, and I don't say that I agree with the firefights, but whenever you take these Central American food off these people's tables, it's basically doing that, taking the money right off their table, and they can't buy anything with it, and they can't survive. I've seen so many documentaries over the years of these people that they only would make like $5 a month, trying to earn a living farming, that they turn to their marijuana, they can earn $50 to $100 a month. So I can see that. I really can see that it's time to wake up and smell the coffee. That's what I say. And I think that when it does go to when you go to the UN, well, I think when people start seeing this UN, all the facets of it, when it starts coming out, I will never push television on anybody, because both of you, I think, know where I stand on this, but I think I will even tune into that and see how it goes, because to me, that's more than a presidential race, because we don't have a chance in the presidential race. We know that. But something that could change our people and the health of our people and the economy, not just for us, but on a global scale, I think I'll tune into that, and I think everybody should, because like you mentioned before, not everybody's so forthcoming when it's in the public to speak their mind, but whenever they get a little bit behind or whatever, a door, then they'll speak up what they want. This may be a little bit of a hump they need to get over to say, hey, let's do this, and then you'll go from the 60-some% up to the 70 and 80%, like Switchblade said. That's what I got to say.
All right. Switchblade, what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's a joke. They're trying to appeal to the public without actually being truthful. I think the war on drugs is outrageous. With that being said, I think that there are a lot of drugs that should still have legal consequence. I don't think that should be, a criminal record. I don't think it should be imprisonment, but I do think that a lot of drugs should, come with some sort of rehabilitation program. But at the end of the day, it's all about money. Mm-hmm. That's all that it is. Mm-hmm. you will never once hear me advocate for heroin. But whenever it comes to your doctor's office, how strong do you want it, Lortabs or Oxycontin? Mm-hmm. You will never hear me advocate for legalizing methamphetamine. But whenever it comes to your doctor's office, how strong do you want it? Ritalin or Adderall, or the other drug that is literally methamphetamine capsules it's dis something or other. I'm forgetting the name right now. Whenever it comes to cocaine. Yes, that one.
Yeah, Suboxone.
Whenever it comes to crack and cocaine, okay, well, your doctor isn't going to give that to you, but do you want it in the form of Coca-Cola or coffee? Caffeine is a derivative of cocaine. Yep. The list goes on and on. You want, synthetic acid, LSD. I mean, that's 2CB. All you got to do is be a farmer. It's a fertilizer. Almost every drug that is focused on the war on drugs policy is legalized in one form or another. It's all about the terminology, all about the licensing, and all about government saying it's okay. Mm-hmm. So my biggest concern with the war on drugs isn't the drugs. It's the hypocrisy. I don't want people running around the streets on meth. I don't give a damn if it's ADD medicine or cooked up in a bathtub. I don't want it. Mm-hmm. I don't think we should ruin people's lives over some really crappy mistakes. Now, if they turn around and, they kill some people or they rob some people in order to support their habit, well, then you've got murder and robbery. You don't need to criminalize the reason for it. You need to treat the reason for it.
All right.
You need to expand on holistic health and actually solve the problem instead of increasing the prison industry, because that's all we've done.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I
and
agree
and
with
mo- moving to that point, slides right into mine to end out this topic in this hour. Um, there's a lot of hands in the cookie jar that kind of were expected and not expected with the war on drugs. See, ladies and gentlemen, let me break this down to you in a very simple way what the war on drugs is. The war on drugs is the war on us. It's the war on community. Okay, let me break it down for you a little bit more. See, you're sitting up there, you're smoking weed, you know what I'm saying? You're outside, your kid is asleep in the room that's all the way on the opposite side of the house. She's asleep for about an hour. You're outside with your spouse, you decide to spark a bowl, so then you guys are sitting there relaxing. Guess what? Now you got CPS at your door. Okay? Let me stop right there. Guess who just got money? Law enforcement, your local law enforcement, all those specialists, and now CPS. Continuing. Okay? Now you're gonna go to jail. Prison industry. All right? Your correctional DOJ, your local DOJ is now cashing in on you every single time that you're on that bunk. Now, after you get out, you're on probation. So then turn around, heaven forbid you fuck up and become violated on probation, because guess what? The state's getting paid anymore. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, are you starting to get the picture? Do you now understand why I say the war of drugs is on us? Because we are their dollar number. We're their dollar symbol, people. So please spare me the Facebook comments that, Rush, you're being too harsh. No. Maybe you're just listening too soft. With that being said, it has been an incredible hour, and I definitely, S, are you going to be around for the rest of the hour, or you got to get out of here?
I think after this break song, I'm going to have to go.
Okay. All right, rightfully so. Hey, well, we really appreciate the time that you've given us. You already know you're all over the place, just like me. So would you like to give a closing statement out before we start this song?
Yes, I would. Sorry, I've got a lot going on around me at the moment here.
All right.
And you picked a song. I should have thought about this beforehand going into it. You picked a song that I absolutely love. So I'm going to make my closing statement about the upcoming break song. Things are perceived in the packages that are presented to them. Like we say on Beyond the Veil, when perception is reality, presentation becomes a weapon. Never let your preconceived notions, such as the war on drugs, or which president has which presidential candidate has which record, stand in the way of self-exploration. And I say self-exploration because it takes a certain initiative that not everyone, unfortunately, is born with in order to seek out the intellectual value in any given situation. Now, in regarding to the specific song, the topic at hand is religion. I actually played this song for my wife one night because I was blown away by the lyrical construct. And she listened to it and she said, "This is blasphemous, this is against religion." And I'm like, no. This is much more than being against religion. Religion actually has nothing to do with it outside of organized religion. Organized religion is there to tell you how to think, to tell you how to feel, much like censorship is there to tell you how to think and to tell you how to feel, much like politically correct speech is there to tell you how to think and tell you how to feel, much like partisan bias is there to tell you how to think and tell you how to feel. And this particular song is one of my all-time favorites. It is rooted in Christian metaphors, but I do not believe that it is attacking Christianity as a faith. In fact, I think it has a far deeper purpose that goes far beyond any form of Christianity, established or unestablished. It's called metaphors, people. So when you listen to this song, I really want you to think and I really want you to reflect, and I want you to listen to it line by line. Don't precede or exceed the context. Sage Francis doesn't write that way. Each line has his own reason. Each line has its own purpose. And he is underscoring the very underbelly of humanity that we pretend isn't there. And he's doing it through a context we're familiar with, which is Christianity. He's from fucking Providence, Rhode Island. You don't get much more Christian nation than that. Okay? So he's rooting it in familiarity, but he's not attacking you for believing in God or believing in Easter or worshiping the rise of Christ on Easter. He doesn't give a shit about any of that. None of us that don't agree with you, I promise you, those of us who truly just don't agree with you, we don't care that you believe that. We don't care. But it's one hell of a metaphor, and it's meant to hit you at home, and it's meant to stab you in the heart. Not in a mean way, but in a way that just, it breaks that isolation up. And I cannot stress this enough. This song needs to be played over and over and over again. I probably listened to it 7 or 8 times, back to back, before I was just like, holy shit. This song presents itself as one way, but at its core, this is Operation Matrix 3, ladies and gentlemen. This is question everything, even yourself. Now, if you're a devout Christian, first of all, I respect you, and I respect your beliefs, and I don't need to attack you. We can agree to disagree, and I'll still love you like a brother or a sister or whatever. That does not affect me in one bit. But you've got to put the stigma that this song presents to the side and really, really listen to the message of humanity that's being presented.
Without further ado, Sage Francis, Dead Man's Float.
Go away, be extinct, disappear. Go away, be extinct, disappear. Go away, be extinct, disappear. Go away, be extinct, disappear.
Yea, as we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we shall fear no evil. For we are the most evil motherfuckers in whatever valley we choose to occupy, gentrify, overtake, or drunkenly speed through. And it's we, the hitchhikers with tired thumbs, often greeted by middle fingers. Imagery lingered as the tires spun. Now conserve your energy and lay face down in the waterways. Seek guidance from the sirens, calling out to you from those watery graves. Bodies are on display, loaded and holding their crown jewels. Instead of flotation devices, they decided the house rules didn't apply to them. Got baptized in the name of Neptune and then died for him when the ice was thin. For those who don't like to swim, don't fret, cause help is on its way. It'll be here any day. Just stay still and do nothing, buddy. Remain faithful, you're gonna be saved. And when you meet your maker, you can explain how there was a cemetery of support behind every wager that you placed. While the chorus of every deceased beast that came before us sweetly sang, we all float down here and wait for the riptide to sweep us away to the valley of the shadow, where we shall fear no evil. For we are so cerebral, we the ghost people, with a poke of the needle, top of the pill. We the post-survivalists, holding on to the people like a lightning rod to show that we died for this. As Ben said, faith could move a mountain. Faith couldn't even move low-income families away from biblical floods when they were all drowning. There's not a doubt in my mind, and there's not a cloud in the sky. There's just contaminated rivers filled with waterlogged subordinates floating on by. Float on.
Swimming through iron limbs of the nighted stiffs. The skeletal remains of false praise. The slow decay of yesterday's recycled gifts. The drowning in sorrow because they're praying with clenched fists. Shamed by the broken promise of tomorrow. The guilt sticks to the ribs. And it's ageless, and it's ancient, and it ain't shit when compared to the present. So all hail the king, while the public and peasants return to the so-called essence. The war, the famine, the death, and the pestilence. Float on.
Of luck ain't always bestowed upon the old and weak. We stick 'em, ha ha ha, stick 'em with the ocean's deep. Go to sleep, young one, have sweet dreams of someone that you'll never meet, but you speak of often whenever you talk in tongues. The coffin comes in the form of a canoe, no paddle, no info, no manual. Let's flow, don't be so quick to storm the castle. Pack survival kits, put an oxygen mask inside the tackle box. Your limbs and abdomen will sense when the pressure of the cabin drops. Shut up when the captain talks. The secret of the enlightened is to preach against whatever it is they practice in the dark. We're all born free. We die by the shackles we adopt. Enjoy your buoyancy right up until the very last drop.
The dead man's float, the deadpan joke, the cold touch of a stranger, the left hand stroke. There's no right hand, man. If the dead man spills, the dead man still face down in his own waste. While we chase a shadow in the gallows of the valley of death, where we shall fear no evil, for as long as we can hold our breath. Float on. Go away, be extinct, disappear. Float on, 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 go away, be extinct, disappear. Float on.
Float on, float on. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Of course I do. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Sage Francis, Dead Man's Float. Thank you very much, Strange Famous, for letting us rock your artist's music. Today is March 29th, 2016, and you are on the second half of Against the Grain, 1 year anniversary of ATG and the RWO. You are rocking with your host, Rush Perez of the Real World Order, and also I am joined in the second hour by my co-host and one of my best lone wolf of the RWO. We hit a bunch of topics earlier this evening, everything from Loretta Lynch and the Assistant General, or whatever you want to call her, might call her just snake in the grass, to medical oil dispensary being sold in Texas and people not getting too excited, really understanding what's going on, and also talking about that on a global aspect, considering that everything that we do, depending on what city you're in, from New York to LA to California, has become globalized thanks to your local quote-unquote representatives, and I use that word loosely. Before we go on with the rest of the show, you guys have been rocking to our my intro music for the last year. I don't shout out them enough. And I really want to, because they really give some great quality music. Shout outs to Mubs Beats out there in London, your entire camp. That Better Be Strong for Me was mixed by Switchblade at A&T Music, but the beat comes originally from Mubs Beats. He's the stamp that you hear in the middle, which works perfectly. He has great beats for sale, beats for free, beats for lease, beats you can own, great music. I really prescribe you guys to go there. So mubsbeats.com. He's also on Twitter. If you're following me, go ahead and check my friends out. You can follow him. Great group of guys, great group of people. Shout out to everybody in London. With that being said, I want to actually rant about something, Lone Wolf, and I think I'm going to rant about it because it is really, really, really pissing me off. I ran across an article today. Oh, geez, how do I want to really go about this? Okay, so let's make it this way. All right, so Michelle Obama's lunch, okay, long story short, all right, is her school lunches, which our kids are eating every day, and is people in prison actually eat better than they do. Long story short, but with that being said, they are now actually the feds are going to fine schools for not following Michelle Obama's lunch rule. Okay, this is through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. This is an article you can find on freebeacon.com. I am not going to pull up all the fancy schmancy stuff all about it because I'm really going to get right into the core of my rant of this situation, okay? First off, you get more protein, all right? And I did put this post up in the RWO, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is facebook.com/groups/the official group of the Real World Order, where you can catch a lot of my articles, a lot of the other members of the RWO articles as well, and just simple interaction every day to keep ourselves informed and to sharpen up our knowledgeable tools. So be sure to go ahead and join us in there. You'll catch Lone Wolf in there. You'll catch myself in there along with S. Olander's always in there lurking around somewhere. He's always everywhere. So definitely come down and join us. Tell your friends about it, because when mainstream goes belly up, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be one of the main medias that you guys go to get the facts. All right, after Fox and all your, conventional, media goes out the window, because it is, more and more reports are coming out that it's fake news. So you're going to need your source, and we are happy to serve you. With that being said, back to Michelle Obama's lunch, okay? So now the feds are going to go in there, and the Department of Agriculture is going to go in there and start taxing these schools. Here is my issue with this, okay? So once again, I've already mentioned it, I think 3 or 4 times this show so far, that the local elites, that's what we're going to call them, okay? We're going to call them elites, all right? The local elites, all right? The guys who just don't quite make it to the big party, all right, but they're somewhere in the lobby, all right? These guys have decided that they're going to tax schools. My problem with this is that you're going to tax schools over this shitty lunch that Michelle Obama has put out, okay? And you're going to tax schools. Mind you, schools are already suffering, okay? We already can't fund the Common Core that our children are being taught daily, that if you are a responsible adult who is aware and awake, has to unravel every time that they come home because they are manipulating our youth. I am going to actually put up my sourcing for this because there's school funding droppings. There's, articles from the Daily Mail out of the UK talking about that prisoners eat better than Michelle Obama's lunch program. I actually read a couple articles that said it was over protein. If that's what over protein looks like, I'll be a fat kid forever. School funding numbers, Common Core, just in case people don't realize what Common Core is. It comes straight from their Common Core standards. 5 + 5 = 4. 1 + 1 = 3, as Alex Jones would say, or whatever, or some of the other independent media outlets. Okay, this just really pisses me off. Do you get it? Do you get that they're attacking our youth? I have honestly went out and said that this is a cold war on family, not a shot fired, but definitely casualty. When are we going to pull the plug and say enough is enough? Lone Wolf, what are your thoughts on this? And I know you have something else to follow up with this after this, but what is your thoughts on this lunch situation and the feds coming in to tax us? Or excuse me, tax. Boy. Well, yeah, tax us because it's taxing the community. With the school, the community pays for the schools, so yeah, tax us.
Oh yeah, and it's no matter where you live, every year it goes up and up and up. But what you're saying about Michael, when she first started this, you remember, and it's ingrained in my head because I'm infuriated over it, this whole thing now. She started it, the produce section, the big press entourage and paparazzi followed her. We're going to make school lunches better, okay? But whenever I saw probably some of the same stuff you did on this, and they did almost like a side-by-side prisoners. They had like a Salisbury steak and mashed potatoes and whatever. Yeah, sure, it's boxed, it's canned, whatever. But still, whenever they're getting like 1,000 more calories or more carbs a day than a studying kid / child, grown teenager almost, and what it looked like to me in the videos was the kids, their meat comparison, it looked like refried beans. Excuse me, let me back up. It looked like potted meat with refried beans over it, whereas the prisoners had like the Salisbury steak or whatever. It looked like real gravy. And the kids and the parents are being infuriated. The ones that are paying for lunches are starting to now pack their lunches, and the parents are saying, yeah, we're paying for it, whether we take cash out of pocket for lunch money, but they want to ensure their kids getting it. But now they're going to have to pay for it basically threefold because they're paying for it already out of pocket. They're paying to have their kids' brown bag, and now they're going to get taxed for it. I think it's more control of the government wants to keep the box tightening around everybody, so they can say you can go pee. Exactly. You can go pee now, or you need to drink your milk now, and it's just there's no nutritional value to it like she originally wanted to be, or not wanted to be that she presumably said it was going to be because it took a 180-degree turn, if not more. That's where I stand. Exactly. Full.
Oh, no, yeah, and I absolutely agree. As a matter of fact, if for our listeners, if this is your first time listening to us, we speak only on a factual basis. So don't believe a damn thing that we say. Feel free to go ahead and research on your own. There was an article out, or excuse me, not an article, but there was a video out, actually Infowars.com. They went ham on this, and rightfully so, because it blew my mind. Shit, I'd seen the commercial a couple of times and didn't really realize what the hell she was saying. But it was the former CNN host. She's a mulatto or she's mixed or whatever, black, whatever she wants to be this week. I don't know, whatever pays her. But either way, she was fired recently because of some comments that she had made on CNN. And they ended up firing her, canceling her show or something like that. But anyway, there was a video of her that she made basically saying that your kids belong to the state. Your kids belong to us. Your kids belong to the community. Now, I understand how that kind of blew past me because I was raised, it takes a whole village to raise a child. So initially, not thinking, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a pretty good message until I got the facts pointed out to me. And I said, okay, that makes a little more sense now. Okay, first off, I understand completely, when you go to a restaurant, you pay for what you get for, okay? So the point that you would get up in the morning and pay for your latte and you're not going to walk out of that coffee shop till your latte is right, why wouldn't you take that same initiative for your child's lunch, okay? Or, you know what? Child lunches is sometimes for children who come from less fortunate families, and honestly, let's keep it 100 for lazy fucking parents. And sometimes parents who just don't have the schedule. Okay, I get it. But if you can make yourself a lunch for work, make your kids lunch the day before and then turn around, this doesn't have to be a huge fucking discussion. That's how you take the power back to the people. Not more government, not bigger funding, not more fucking program. You know what? I laugh every time somebody wants to boast about a program, a federal program, because you're the first fucking person to say that the government isn't programming you. You're the first person to grab a government program, but you're saying that the government... Do you understand where I'm coming from, people? Do you really understand the frustration? You don't want the government to program you, but yet and all, you want the government program. You want bigger government. You want Big Brother to put his hand together with Big Sis and put it right over your bosoms until you can't walk out of your front fucking door without 64 fucking snaps of it being sent to 45 different fucking third parties because you got 4 smart TVs and 5 Xboxes in your fucking house. Okay? You get the point.
Yeah, that's now on the point.
Yeah, we're really going to be super direct on ATG this year. I mean, last year we were very factual. Even S said it, going back on some of the shows. He's a statistician, and he's a very good statistician, underpaid statistician because he works for a greedy-ass company. But anyway, at the end of the day, even he's like, holy shit, dude, you're throwing out numbers, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, we're going to give it a little more attitude. It's the time for... the sweet buttons and ribbons, rainbows and lollipops, it's over, okay? You're either with it or you get left behind. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to stop my mission to inform people and to educate them with the same knowledge that I've been blessed to understand in the way that they can understand it, which the only way that you can is straight out truth. Lone Wolf, you had a story to follow up on that. Why don't you go ahead and fill our listeners into this?
Oh, story, yes. Which one would you like me to do?
Pick one and go with it, brother. Dealing with the children, the boarding.
All right. Well, oh boy. I got a billion things going through my head now about.
What we talked about during the break.
Oh yeah. I made comment in. We were talking about something in one of the group discussions, and you can place this wherever you want, but I was keen on let's just do the police thing in right there because that gives me more and I can get it off my head. And it falls into every family and everything because what it is it's actually not the ones that are carrying the badge and the gun. And I mean this in all aspects. Children Protector Service, Children's Youth Service, the ones coming when you dial 911. They're all being taught, basically, that you have no right. And this thing with Michelle Obama ties in. Why? Because the Fed's going to say, this is the way it's going to be, then you have to answer at the door. They're the ones handing it down. And you're thinking they're the bad guys. Yeah, they are. But what they're being taught to do is very unconstitutional. They're taught one way. We're reading it another in constitutional law. And we're saying, hey, wait a minute. We're scratching our heads, scratching our asses on this. And I'll give you one example. When I say traffic, I don't mean traffic as in a vehicle. Traffic is all foot traffic, all vehicle traffic, any traffic. If you do not follow the guidelines for traffic, and this ties in with what we're saying about the federal government wanting taxes, because if you take a stand against it, guess what? your ass is grass and they think there's a lawnmower. But all the cadets are being taught this in school. And each state may vary, but it's all being taught pretty much the same way. That if there's an uprise or they'll consider you dissident, or they will find a way to lay charges against you. Why? Because, like I said, traffic. And they'll say you're interfering with the flow of traffic. That doesn't mean a vehicle. That means you're interfering with what they're trying to convey, what the federal government wants them to convey, what the state wants them to convey. So they can find a million different reasons, and you can have the Constitution there and say, hey, this is my right, this is my privilege. Guess what? They don't know it. The only thing they're being told is what the federal government wants them to do. And who's going to win against the federal government? Nobody. And like we're saying, paying threefold in taxes, if you go up against it, you're going against the government, and then you have the IRS and all that. And it's basically a moot point. So that's why it needs said, and it needs said now so people can wake up to that. And I know people are going to say, well, what the heck do you know about it? Trust me. These things are upcoming, and as X knows, we do have some sources, but we can't divulge them, or we wouldn't be in this business. We'd be done tomorrow. But that's one of them that I wanted to say. Whether you can put it how or where you want to act, it's just one of the ones that was on my mind up front. No,
absolutely. I think that's I thought that was a very important issue. That's why I wanted you to bring it up. I mean, it all comes down to, like I said, just like that ex-CNN anchor or co-host or whatever she was, like she said, and it was a promotional commercial that I do believe was first off on CNN, and then they put it on YouTube. You can go ahead and look it up. I apologize because I don't have her name because I just don't care that much. But, that she's basically saying that your kids belong to us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here you go. And guess what? I got another article for you guys, all right? If you don't want that to go, all right, they'll do it with your kids' toys. Oh, yeah, did you forget about that? That was a Guardian article. Hackers can hijack Wi-Fi Hello Barbie to spy on your children. Okay, that's an article that was on the 26th of November of last year. What's that?
Let me jump in here real quick. I think this is important, and I do apologize for interrupting you, but one of the major things, and like I said, I got a million things going on because of the show and things that I was thinking about and reading, but here's one of the major things that everybody needs to be aware of that they could slap you with and it would hurt you in more ways than enough. It's endangering the health and welfare of others. That is the big thing that they could get you for, and if you have kids, guess what? You won't when they're done. But anyway, I apologize for that. I figured that needed to come out and be said.
Oh, yeah, no worries on that. But, hey, while we're at it, let's go into some RT news. All right, I have an article here that was published 2 years ago. It was in July 12th of 2014. The RT article is Whistleblower. NSA stores 80% of all cell phone calls, not just metadata, full audio. Okay, I would encourage you guys to go look this up because this is an oldie, but a goodie of them really getting into. No, they're not just taking this or just phone calls or just this. They are actually getting really deep into the spying of your home, of your everything. It's going from your toys, it's going to your home. I have another article right here that I actually brushed by today that was back in February 11th of 2016 from the Mint Press News. Director of National Intelligence confirms smart devices may be used to spy on Americans. Wow, imagine that, huh? I'm actually going to read this article because it's really short and it's not going to take too long here. But this is an item, and this is a type of technology and abbreviations that you're going to hear and think it's not a big deal. And yeah, it is. This is an article by Claire Bernish, Bernish. And like I said, this is an article from February 11th of 2016. Director of National Intelligence James Clapper stated to the to the Senate Armed Services Committee that the Internet of Things, the IoT, is what they're calling it, okay? So-called smart devices, vehicles, and appliances which employ various computer technologies may be used to spy and keep tabs on people in the future. Quote, in the future, intelligence services might use the IoT for identification, surveillance, monitoring, location tracking, and targeting for recruitment or to gain access to networks or user credentials. End quote. Clapper's prepared testimony claim. Okay, I'm going to stop right there just for the simple fact that that is a really crazy story that's going on with that, okay, to the point that they're letting you know that this new technology is honestly going to be getting into, you know, your local home, going into what you're going, you know, into your home. You know, this is a technology that they're going to be putting out on the market as no big deal. I'm letting you guys know right now that this is going to be an article that you can reference. The article continues. Though his remarks were obscenely and not surprisingly directed toward the fight against terrorism, the potential implications for all civilizations cannot be ignored, particularly considering the IoT comprises everything from smart cars and fitness tracking devices to televisions and Barbie dolls. Now, that's why I do this, ladies and gentlemen. Do you see how the flow of the show goes? Okay, now you can go back to that Guardian article that they talked about the Wi-Fi Barbie dolls, because they're even sourcing it here in this article. Okay? Clapper warns the threat from Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and such non-state actors as ISIL and Al-Qaeda can be expected in the form of cyber attacks, gathering information about individuals, and even psyops, which make the IoT vulnerable to malicious intent and ideal for U.S. intelligence gathering purposes. Quote, future cyber operations will almost certainly include an increased emphasis on changing or manipulating data to comprise its infantry, okay, and for example, the accuracy and reliability, okay. Broader adoption of IoT devices and AI, which is artificial intelligence. If you guys want to cross-reference an article real quick and just go ahead and Google it, they just had one of the artificial intelligence machines go all of a sudden Hitler on them, where she started making racial slurs and all type of other obscene statement. So that tells you right there, in case you want to know if artificial intelligence is good. Same thing as fucking climate control, which I'm going back to that after this article. Going back to the article now, in settings such as public utilities and healthcare will only accelerate these potential efforts, said Clapper. No matter the possible veracity and concerns of national intelligence, the agency desires to thwart terrorism with an exponential increase in surveillance should be disquieting to all civilians wishing to maintain mediocrity of privacy. As researchers such as Berkman Center for Internet and Society at Harvard warned in their recent report, Don't Panic. The Internet of Things, the IoT, in case you people are wondering what the IoT is, that's Internet of Things, okay, promises a new frontier for networking of objects, machines, and environments in ways that we are just beginning to understand. When, say, a television has a microphone and a network connection and is reprogrammable by its vendor, it could be used to listen in to one side of a telephone conversation taking place in its room, no matter how encrypted the telephone service itself might be. These forces are on treachery towards future with more opportunities for surveillance. In fact, the Nest, which is what this technology is called, is a home automation producer of programmable, self-learning, sensor-driven, Wi-Fi-enabled thermostats, smoke detectors, and other security systems. It's also one of the devices, it's also one of the devices can be used to spy on people in their homes. Clapper's testimony carefully constructs a potential hear that, people. HVE present the greatest loom threat inside the United States, according to his remarks, and I quote, U.S.-based HVEs will probably continue to pose the most significant Sunni terrorist threat to the United States homeland in 2016. The perceived success of attacks by HVEs in Europe and North America, such as those in Chattanooga and San Bernardino, might motivate others to reciprocate opportunistic attacks with little or no warning, diminishing our ability to detect terrorist operational planning and readiness, end quote. With terrorists, foreign actors, and U.S. intelligence community eager to take command in various degrees through the Internet of Things, the IoT, including smartphones, smart homes, smart cars, smart fridges, smart toys, and even smart toothbrushes. The choice to designate such devices smart should perhaps be revisited. I read that article in full because it just hit so many major freaking points of our privacy and CISPA and TISA and people saying that TPP is great and it's free trade. There's absolutely nothing free that is going on but the government fucking us. By the government taking our freedoms, by them taking our rights, and by them taking what our very forefathers put in front of us to make this country run the way that it's supposed to run. By the way, don't forget that our forefathers didn't just talk about the glory days of that they saw that America that they saw America going toward. They also talked about the dark days, hinting toward the Federal Reserve and how it should not be the main finance say guys of our country, otherwise we're going to wake up bare on the very land that our fathers came and conquered. This is nothing new, ladies and gentlemen. My question that is new is what the fuck are you going to do about it? And please, let me know. Are you going to stand on the sidelines with a thumb up your ass, or are you going to be ready to fight? What is it going to take for them to kick down your door? What is it going to take for them to threaten to take your child? What is it going to take for them to put another 2% on top of the already 4% that they take out for your tax, or take out on your check that you make every week, and people don't even notice it, haven't even bitched about it, but yet and all you're standing in front of the Fed? Why weren't you standing in front of the Fed when they were taking your little simple liberties?
Oh, yeah.
See, it all comes down to information. They weren't there. They're nowhere around. What do you think of that article, Lone Wolf?
I think it's a great article. I don't know how much more I can add to it other than to the beginning where you touched about the NSA, which I want to tell our listeners all over the world to do a search on the NSA and see why it was created, when it was created, and see what guidelines they have to follow. Because anything that has to do with intelligence usually ends up going through the NSA some way or somehow, because the NSA has no oversight committee, or they don't have to listen to anybody, basically. And that's where it comes into what you're saying now. It's starting to go into the Wi-Fi, like the Barbies and the smart cars, the smartphones, and everything. They do it so they present it in a way as to, oh, this will help your kid learn more. This will help you do more. And they're trying to make it like it's our idea, our this, our that, to better us. the only thing it's doing is dumbing up the people, and the sooner the people realize it, the better off they'll be. Which brings up a great thing for me, and you could probably attest to this. Whenever you were young, I know when I was young, we'd go somewhere. The only thing we'd have a book or a small puzzle game or something to go on a trip. There were no phones, no nothing. Now they're making it sound like everybody has to have one. Why? Same way with the GPS. GPS came out way before the smartphone did. But if you go back to that, the GPS navigational system, and people, it's on there, because I have one of the very first TomToms, in fact, 2 of them, and it says satellite. It tells you exactly how fast you're going. So with that being said, I just saw something probably a half hour before we got on air, and it says for every calendar year that passes, the federal government of the United States of America is 44 years advanced. So I know people are sitting there shaking their head going, well, what does that mean? Well, think about it. How long before the smartphone was the TomTom and the Garmin and all these navigational systems out? What, 10, 15 years? So that should tell you, you know.
I mean, people can really...
If people are seeing it in the movies, basically it's out there. Not one of those, oh, that would be so neat to have. If they're showing it in the movies, like we'll say our military, they show the stealth fighters. They're old news to our federal government. They already have something, and it's just a never-ending battle. And that's what Russ is saying, people. If you don't wake up, you're going to be left out in the cold, playing Switch on the corner with your thumbs and they're not in your ears or your mouth. So, yeah, heed the warnings.
I tell you this, there's an invitation to a party and 99% of us aren't invited. All right? We'll put it to you like that. With that being said, I do, with this being the 1 year anniversary of ATG and RWO, I do want to do my little ditty about both. ATG Against the Grain was an offer of extension through Anonymous North Texas, and I've been gracious enough to work with Orlando and Switchblade of A&T. They have been great helps throughout the RWO and throughout ATG. I met some great people because of them, and vice versa. ATG was basically the response to the RWO. What you heard in the beginning of the show was actually, I guess, to say our creed when I first started it, and to give people a better understanding of where I'm coming from and of why it was created. There's a few things I like to stress about that. The RWO, the Real World Order, is a response to the New World Order, which is not the new. There's nothing new. It's long from new and far from order, as quoted. I figured the Real World Order was a much better response than anything else to give people the real world, to give them the facts. To not have everything in lollipops and cotton candy, and really give people the facts, which causes me to tailspin sometimes and have to research things that I really don't like, research things that I really have no interest in personally, but there is a society that needs to know, and there are people that need to know these facts. So all in all, the Real World Order is a movement. It is a family. We are a family of individuals, of humans who come from various parts of the world, literally, and we all come together on a common ground, and that is to leave this planet much better for these babies than how we got it. To always follow the money if we want to find out who's really in charge. We want to know who's in charge. You know, the person who they said you can't say anything against. I saw a meme on that today, and that's very true. And we're very fact-driven. We work daily to give you guys the facts. We reference, cross-reference, triple reference, quadruple reference, and no matter how many times we reference, don't take anything in concrete. Always go do your own homework. Detach from the bullshit you've been learned, because trust me, what you were attached to and taught is not the same cord and cable that your child is being fed through, okay? So think about it that way. We are honored. I am humbly honored to serve my fellow humans, and I will do so till I die. I am surrounded by a great group of people, Lone Wolf included, who's been there since its start, conception, its very start, and has rocked with me, the ups and downs, the greats and the bad times. But all in all, we do this every single day for our loved ones. We do this for ourselves, and more importantly, we do it for everybody else. And I always believed in, and if you can change a little bit of your world, you can change a little bit of the world around you, which changes the entire world. And that is what we are trying to do. And thank you to all the fans and listeners who have dealt with us, who have been patient, supported us. We really appreciate you, and we are going to be going even harder this year. And I just wanted to really take this time out to thank our listeners, thank all our business associates, all our past guests, Lily for Liberty, Karen Conial, Dylan Avery, Corey Rowe and his amazing photography and all the work they did with Loose Change. All the great hosts that we've had. Honeybee was a co-host here for a while. Still a great member of the RWO. Great appreciation to her, as well as many others that I may not have mentioned. Thank you guys. We are going to be here until they blow this bitch up, or we do first. All right? So bet on us being here regularly every single Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central, right here, same bad time, same bad station, every single week. We are back on full time to give you guys the facts, step by step, number by number, article by article, book by book, movie by movie. I'm right here with you, co-piloting this great adventure down the rabbit hole. Remember, everybody is free to definitely have their own opinion, but you are not free to make up the facts, and we are definitely the 99%. With that being said, I do want to get off into two segments of the show that are dear to me, and one of them is Tool of the Week. Tool of the Week is a segment in Against the Grain that basically is a award given to dumbasses or groups of dumbasses or several dumbass people that just do the most outlandish things and just kind of gives a little spotlight onto the different crevices and darknesses of humans as we go along this journey. So we already had one with Al Sharpton, who we already know is one of my best friends, along with George Soros, who we didn't get into much today, but nevertheless we will. Or you can always go back and check out our past shows on SoundCloud, which is soundcloud.com/Anonymous North Texas, all one word, which is a little bit more mobile friendly. And I will be catching up on actually updating, getting all the shows on there. Just in case you don't catch the live broadcasts, you can always hit the Facebook post wherever you see it, and then it will send you to the rebroadcast off of blogtalkradio.com. And even though Blog Talk, you get on our damn nerves and everything else, and we get through so much stuff, crazy stuff, I do have to show my appreciation to you guys as well for letting us rock out for a year and hosting us. So hats off to all the execs and everybody there at Blog Talk Radio, but let's try to tighten it up and make the broadcasts a little better. I know we're independent, but it's important to us. Moving on, the story of the Tool of the Week, this is always a hard segment for me, even more than the other one, which you would be thinking that the other one would be harder, which is Moment of Clarity, because I'm summing up the show in my week. But no, this one is actually hard because there's just so many tools in the toolbox. You just don't know which one to grab. You just don't know which one to grab. But this lady right here, She takes the cake. This is an article out of WFAA, Channel 8 ABC. All right. You can go to WFAA.com and check out this article. And the headline reads, Sheriff, toddler suffers burns after mom puts child in oven. Yes, you did hear that correctly. Okay? This article was written March 21st, 2016. And before I go into this article, which is very small, let me tell you something right now. I am researching this story personally, as I did Home and Square, okay, which we will be following up with this year as well, okay? But this story kind of touched me a little bit, all right? Glen Rose. Witnesses say a mother confessed to putting her toddler in an oven, according to the Somerville County Sheriff's Department. And Somerville is spelled S-O-M-E-V-E-V-E, S-O-M-E-R-V-E-L-L County Sheriff's Department. Authorities said late Thursday night they were called to a residence where a toddler was reported to have suffered burns. Upon their arrival, deputies talked with witnesses who said 35-year-old Tasha Chantel, T-A-S-H-A-S-H-O-N-T-E-L-L, Hatcher, H-A-T-C-H-E-R, told them she placed her 2-year-old child in the oven. The child was transported to Texas Health Harris Methodist Hospital in Fort Worth and then taken by air ambulance to Parkland Hospital in Dallas. She suffered second and third degree burns. Arthur Villa lives directly next to Hatcher, about 3 miles outside of Glen Rose. And quote, they always seem playful together, end quote, he says. But on Thursday evening, as he mowed his lawn, he says he noticed loud music and Hatcher acting strangely, making gestures and signs. Quote, it was unusual, he said. The mother has been charged with serious bodily harm to a child and is being held on a $300,000 bond. Authorities say Somerville deputies, Texas Rangers, and Child Protective Services are still investigating the case. A spokeswoman from CPS said the child should be placed in their custody and then foster care when she is able to leave the hospital. Somerville County is located about 53 miles southwest of Fort Worth in Texas. I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, I have my Matrix 3 hat on. Oh, yeah, I do. And it's snugged on tight. Because let me tell you something. You mean to tell me that there is no other cases of this mother against CPS? I'm very interested to see if this is an isolated case, since one of our operations are Operation CPS, Operation Expose CPS, Operation Blue Balloon, Operation Death Eaters, Operation Pedo Hunters. So I'm really, really interested, not only to see if there's been any more cases, but just how North Texas CPS is going to handle this situation. Let it be known, I am watching. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, wow. Other than wow, I can't give my true thoughts because it would piss a lot of people off. The human rights activist, per se, somebody's going to jump to her defense. A $300,000 bond. Now, for people that don't know the difference between a bond and a bail, bond you have to have equity or cash in that amount, $300,000. Bail, you're going to have to come up with 10%. That would be $30,000. So, with that, there has to be a lot more granted, no child's life you can put a price on it, none at all. So, but the $300,000 bond, yeah, I will give a little amendment to the judge or the court, but where in heck, like you said, CPS, I don't know. This just doesn't smell good, and I'm thinking that there's going to be more that comes to light because I can't see this as an isolated incident, especially with somebody that was watching and the whole 9 yards of just putting a 2-year-old kid in the oven. That's just unheard of. That's like we all laughed whenever we would read a story about a kid putting a microwave in a cat. Well, yeah, we can, not saying that it's good, but you can almost see that happening because kid microwave wanted to dry it off. In God's name, does an adult put a kid in an oven and close the door? First thing that would come to mind, even if the oven wasn't on, is asphyxiation. Not to mention, like, the burns. It's like, oh, my God, that's just so... I just think they ought to save the taxpayers a lot of money and just do away with it right now.
And this is why... Oh, I hear you. This is why I have said, and some people are like, oh, well, Rush, that's really harsh. Okay, look, let me tell you something. I believe that since America feels like that halftime during sports events are more important, okay, fine. I don't knock it. I watch sports. I'm a huge sports nut, okay, but it doesn't take over my life, okay? But here's the deal, okay? Entertainment's entertainment, and, you know, symbols are for the simple-minded, to quote the late and great George Carlin. Now, with that being said, okay, what the fuck would possess you to put your child in a fucking oven? There's nothing at all, I don't care, that you could tell me to convince me of that. Mental health. Okay, but you weren't mental enough to get laid, right? I know that sounds kind of harsh, right? I'm sure my Facebook's going to blow up. But let's be honest about it. Okay? So obviously you're not that slow. Okay? All right? Not saying that there isn't something really wrong with the lady. I don't have all of the specifics and facts to make the story, hence why I said I am watching and I will be following it. But I'm just speaking from a glance view. How much sense does it make? Doesn't make any at all. And that is exactly where I am burying that for this evening, because it literally makes my stomach turn. And to be honest, unfortunately, listeners, I hope it's making yours turn, and I hope it's pissing you off as much as it has me, because there are hundreds and thousands of children who don't have that voice. Well, if I can, I will, and I will help. And so will everybody else that rides with me. We will do our best. We're going to wrap up the show here. It's been a great show. Man, I'm telling you, it's so blessed to have a year of great people that turn into family. It's been great. So, Lone Wolf, would you like to throw out some closing statements here?
I don't really have much of a closing statement since it's been not just it's been a year. It's actually went by a lot faster, and like you said, the RWO is a family. And speaking of which, I gotta give a shout out to one guy that's really been working his ass off, and that's Guy Foot, to let him know that he's in our thoughts and his family's in our prayers. Just for the people, you know, if you see him online or whatever, just give him a shout out. But the RWO, that's what I want to do as my closing, that it truly is a family. And people need to understand that. There's many groups out there and whatnot and this and that. But the RWO, I got in it, and of course you get skeptical. And we, like I said at the beginning of the show, we were kind of jovial first during our meetings and whatnot, but then it got down to, oh, this stuff's really happening faster than we had anticipated, and it's like keeping up. But that's where the family part comes in, because no matter how bad of a day you're having or you can't research, you can always ask somebody in the RWO. And when you do that, somebody may not come up to the plate right that second, but as soon as they see it, they will. And it's like any family, and why we keep saying family, because it really, truly is, because let's face it, we all know that if we don't get something right, somebody will correct us on it, but not in a bad way. They'll, message us and write. It's happened to me. X has done it. John Wayne has done it. Honeybee's done it. Spitfire's done it. And the list goes on. And then we'll go, you okay? And it's like, yeah. And we also have our little bitch fits or piss fits, but that's what a family is. And then you spend your time pouting about it, you move on. Or we get in a closed group session and we talk about things and we verse our opinions about it, and it's a consensus. It's not that we don't reply to you right away because we're ignoring you. We like to hash everything out, and we work with you and not against you. And we do the same way with public. And another point I'd like to bring up about it being family is, you know this, and I know it, and so does Honeybee and a few others. We've been under troll surveillance, I guess you could put it. That when we get, you just went through this. But when a troll gets us, people, they don't realize. You may see we have a certain amount of friends, a certain amount of people in a group, but for every one of us that has a group, for every one of us in the group, we could have 100 friends or we could have 1,000 friends. And it just, they could never get all of us. And it goes clean to anonymous. And let me tell you, if we get it in the fast stream network where there's a problem going down and it gets back to the RWO admins or the core of RWO, then anonymous sees it, they're done. It's a sunken ship. And that's what a family is. Everybody sticks together and we help one another. And like I said, it's been one heck of a year, and it's only going to get better. And like you said, the sugarcoating is about done because people aren't waking up. I'm like you. They need to have the facts, hard facts, put their nose to it, because the sugarcoating, I feel, and this is my own personal assumption, the sugarcoating is they'll think about it for a little bit, but they won't remember it. If you put their nose to the grindstone or their face in it, they're going to say, well, holy shit, did you hear this or did you hear that? They were really upset about this or about that. It's like a really funny joke. You'll never forget it. And that's the way the RWO operates. And that's my final thought.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I tell you, as always, man, it's been a blessing ever since you guys have entered my life. So I thank you for coming on this amazing show tonight. That was, I couldn't have said it any better. You're making my closing statement a little hard here. All right. All right. Thank you, Lone Wolf. And you'll definitely be on more shows. You know that. So thank you again, brother.
You're welcome. Take care now.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are ending toward the end of our show. So there's nothing left more than the moment of clarity. Now, the moment of clarity is just a simple kind of, to be honest with you, I ripped it off of Jerry Springer's Final Thought and Jay-Z's Moment of Clarity song, because it's just one of my favorite songs. So with those things combined is what made this this segment possible. Man, it's been a year. Crazy. I started the RWO, even though I'm its creator, I'm not its leader. We don't have a leader. We lead ourselves. We lead as a family. We lead together. The facts lead us. People have seen it in my posts. I've said, the best tool is history. It's time. Father time. His wife is history. His kids are knowledge and wisdom. And it's up to us as a village to continue to raise those children. You ever want to find corruption, follow the money, because money is the root of all evil? No. It's more or less the people who embrace the money and make the money more important than their existence. Same as a gun. Put a gun on the table, who does it kill? Nobody. Put a gun in an irresponsible person's hands, and you can have a San Bernardino. You can have a Sikh temple shooting. You can have a Columbine. You can have a 9/11. Now, let's make this perfectly clear, ladies and gentlemen. It's more than one way to shoot a gun, to get a hit. Just simmer for a minute. But all in all, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not begging and asking anymore. It's up to you. Well, it's actually been up to you since the beginning. And it always will be. So will it matter when it's on your front door? In your home? When the very things that you have taken for granted are no longer being granted to you? That when something's going to change? The 2016 presidential circus, I made a meme for it. Because that's exactly what it is. It's a circus. Go ahead and search how there was a fake terrorist plot from a gentleman today. And before he was captured, decided to take a selfie before he was captured. See, everything's a joke. It's all fun and games until somebody gets hurt. Or at least that's what I was taught. Well, shit, ladies and gentlemen, how many times you got to get hit before you start making a change? I didn't start the RWO. The RWO, the real world order, has always been around. I didn't start against the grain. There's been tons of people that have been going, people that are living a real world order. What's your choice? People have something to say about that we go off Operation Matrix 3 and, it's just new Matrix garbage, blah, blah, blah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to go and check on, you guys go on YouTube all the time, right? YouTube's fact, right? No, really, actually, I sourced it, but go ahead and check out the video where they say it's a 2014 video that they put together and say the Matrix is real. Ladies and gentlemen, the Matrix is real. You don't believe it's real? Go ask your politician. You know what? You don't believe the Matrix is real? Well, Matrix 1 was Obama's first 4 years. Was Obama running for president. Matrix 2 was his first 2 terms, and now Matrix 3 is what he's going to do when he's out of here. Different faces. That's what the Matrix is, a reality beyond what you perceive it and know it to be. I'm going to get rid of NAFTA. I'm not going to have any big Wahhabi lobbyists in my cabinet. I'm going to fight for the American people. It's time for a change. we changed. Oh, we changed, all right. Now, how are you going to live from here on? I said it before. You put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. So mainstream media, here's my warning to you. All you Hollywood actors and actresses and musicians and all of you guys in these huge public formats that keep divulging and getting into our youth and spreading these lies and this bullshit and using your platform in a vicious way. I'm watching you. And I will be here. And so will the rest of us. To make sure that your opinion that you abuse platform Kanye West, Kim Kardashian, Kyle Jenner, Kenny Jenner, whatever the fuck his name is this week, I'm going to be right there. And I'm going to give the people what they really need. See, you're going to give them what they want. We're here to give them what they need. And what we all need is the truth. What else matters after that? I want to end my moment of clarity in this amazing show with thanking all of our guests. Thank you, Switchblade, for coming on. Olander, I know you're somewhere in the crevices somewhere. Thank you to all the members of the RWO ATG Anonymous community worldwide. Thank you. I am blessed to be a humble servant with you all. But I do want to end the show with Staind is one of my favorite bands. And people can say what they want about Aaron Lewis, but he comes up with some great, great, great lines. And since we already had great music through Sage Francis today, I figured the best way to end the 1-year show would be with a quote that I did shortly before we went off air. This quote comes at the end of Staind's Falling off of the Chapter 5 album. It's a very good song. I do encourage you guys to check it out. It's very good. But the last part is what I want to focus on, all right? So thank everybody for listening. Please tune in every single Tuesday where we are here 7 p.m. Central, bringing you the facts, working hard every single week. Please check us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/the official group of the Real World Order. You can also catch us on Twitter, which is at twitter.com/ oh, geez, I almost forgot our Twitter. Actually, I did forget our Twitter. Okay. Well, anyway, we are on Twitter. I will put our Twitter page up there. I'm sorry. I know it's the new word, ORD. I think it's ORD. I just don't want to give you guys the wrong one. So I will put that up on the post on Against the Grain. Facebook.com/Against the Grain Radio. Also, I am a co-host on the Mother Show, Beyond the Veil, which Switchblade and Orlando Phoenix are the hosts, and I am a co-host on. They are on every Wednesday. That is 7 p.m. Central, same bat time, same date, bat station. Facebook.com/Operation Matrix 3, and that's the Roman numeral 3, so that's the 3 small I's. You can also catch us, our many, many, many pages. Hashtag Just a Green Man thing. I am an honored Green Knight. And I, again, thank you guys for joining us this evening. But I do want to end the show with this quote, which is at the end of Staind's song off of his Chapter 5 album, Falling. All right? I already told you that falling is easy. It's getting back up. That becomes the problem. That's what becomes the problem. If you don't believe you can find a way out, all right? If you don't believe that you can find a way out, you've become the problem. You've become the problem. You see, falling is easy. It's very, very, very easy, all right? It's getting back up that becomes a problem. It becomes a problem, and if you believe you can find a way out, then you solve the problem. ladies and gentlemen, you solved the problem. Until next time, good night.